that on April 19th, the anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord, the New England Patriots will be visiting the White House to celebrate their latest, and what will probably be a continuation of many more to come, Super Bowl win. And with that, I will take your questions.
About this essential benefits protections, obviously among those is maternity leave. So how would removing that jive with the president's promise during the campaign to expand maternity leave? Obviously this would take it out and insurers would no longer have to provide that.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to get into a benefit by benefit discussion here, but I think that there's a lot of concerns, as I just said to Blake, that part of the reason that premiums have spiked out of control is because under Obamacare there were these mandated services that had to be included. And what happened is that, you know, older men, older women who had gone past maternity age were buying benefits that weren't necessary for them. People who were at the younger end of the age scale were buying end-of-life benefits. And I think this goes back to the nut of this discussion, Matt, which is we have now gone down to a system where in 1/3 of all counties there's one choice. And it's this potpourri of mandated benefits that everyone has to have. We've lost consumer choice.
Is the president concerned that this bill now looks a lot like the procedurally what it looked like, what Obamacare looked like 7 years ago? That the Republicans have spent 7 years criticizing the way that bill was brought to the floor, and here they are 7 years later on the same day about to do the exact same thing.
No, not at all. In fact, it's doing exactly what we intended to do. I mean, the exchange that we had with Matt, it's actually going, the two goals that it set out to do, it's actually doing. Driving costs down, finding ways to lower premiums, keep deductibles within reason, or at least giving people the option to choose a plan that fits their budget. And then secondly is doing things that instill competition, choice. So the things that are being done actually achieve the goals that have been set forth.
The president acknowledged that this bill appears to be in trouble right now?
No, I think that we're going to continue. I mean, it's not a question of trouble. There's no deal. We weren't asking for a deal. The president...
You wouldn't call this essential health benefits package a deal?
No, I think for a lot of members it was, and I think some of them stood up and said, Mr. President, we're with you. I think a lot of them said, we're going to go back and think about it, but there was no... The meeting didn't conclude by saying, do we have a deal? That's not why we had it. I think for some members this has been... No, I think this was a discussion that the president continues to have. I think we have been very, very pleased with the direction it's going in and the number of members who have expressed their support for it. We'll continue that discussion.
I'll offer you the opportunity to respond to what Leader Pelosi said today. She said that it's a rookie mistake to set a date for a bill before there's consensus in the Republican caucus. What's your response to that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we have a pretty strong record on the Republican side of getting bills passed, getting things done, and so I know that they have a pretty strong record of passing things and telling people that they can read the bill afterwards. I think we've done this the right way, and I think we know that we've done it with the support that voters told members and the presidents that they wanted. Let's actually look at what CNN reported. They reported that anonymous U.S. officials have told them that information indicates that association of the campaign and suspected operatives coordinated, which they admit is not conclusive of anything, is bordering on collusion. The last line of the thing said, quote, the FBI cannot yet prove that collusion took place. I think there's probably more evidence that CNN colluded with the Clinton campaign to give her debate questions than the Trump campaign gave any kind of collusion. So I think when it comes down to that reporting, it is filled with a bunch of subjective terms about this person may have done this, possibly could have done that. And at the end of the story, if you wade to the very bottom, it says the FBI cannot yet prove that collusion took place.
How did Chairman Nunes end up at the White House yesterday? This morning he said he invited himself here, but that's sort of an uncommon way to end up here. Can you take us through sort of the tick-tock of what happened?
No, I don't know how he got here. I assume in a car, but I also don't track him. I think I don't keep his schedule either. I don't. No, I don't. He literally gave a press conference as we were starting and saying, "I'm going to go down to the press conference, down to the White House." After he briefed the press.
Was this the first time that the White House was made aware of the surveillance that he brought to the president yesterday?
I believe that the information that he shared with the president was new.
And I'm wondering what he says to people who voted for him, who relied on the provisions for opioid addiction, things that were included in those essential health benefits, if they go away.
With respectfully, I think that's a false choice. Again, the problem with Obamacare is it took all of these benefits, mandated that they had to be offered, and what happened is it spiked insurance rates, it spiked deductibles, and choices went away. And the point isn't making a benefit go away or not, and that's why I think it's respectfully a false choice. It's actually offering options to people. It's literally like any other service or product that we have here in this country where you can buy what you want. Sometimes it's at a lower price point because that's what you can afford. Sometimes you buy features on a product because you want those features. Sometimes you determine that you don't need. But people should have choice in the healthcare market just the same way that they do in almost every other industry. I mean, that's the point. It's not about giving or taking. It's about the point that they are being mandated in a way, and that's the point, is that people should buy what they want and what is appropriate for themselves or their family. I mean,
right now, where do the essential health benefits stand? That they're going to be part of this bill, or still?
I think my understanding is they're part of the House bill.
Can you say unequivocally that President Trump did not collude with suspected Russian operatives and coordinate on the release of damaging information to Hillary Clinton's campaign?
So say the first part of it again.
Can you say unequivocally that associates of
See,
President
I think
Trump
this is, with all due, again, yeah. And this is the way that the term associates is flown around. I don't understand what that means. If you're talking about employees of the campaign, employees of the transition, or in the White House, that's one thing. But the way that this term associates gets thrown out, and again, we talked about this yesterday. You pull out a gentleman who was employed by someone for 5 months and talk about a client that he had 10 years ago. No, I can't unequivocally say that nobody ever in his past who may or may not have come in contact with him, who sat next to him at a plane, who grew up with him in grade school, because that's a lot of times this associate.
The gentleman, Paul Manafort, you're referring to as a campaign chairman.
No, I get it, and you're going right. No, I understand who he is. Thank you. I'm well aware of Paul, as I read it out yesterday. But the point that I'm making is when you use a term like associate and you use all of these subjective terms, there's a reason that you're doing it, which is because you don't have anything concrete. If you do, come back to me and ask, does anyone in the White House? Is anyone in the transition? But when you throw out a vague term like that, it's a catch-all. Can you be certain that no one who works for Time Life Turner has ever done anything illegal? I think that's a pretty broad way of casting a net, that, or who has visited the building. I mean, that's what you're equivocally saying.
Of anonymous sources, I mean, you clearly have an issue with the way that they have been used among
I think
intelligence officials, but people in this White House are often on background. They are often appearing as anonymous sources. Devin Nunes has used an anonymous source to present his intelligence. So why is it acceptable in that case, but not?
But first of all, there's two issues here. Number one is what I have a problem with, in specific with the reporting that your network did yesterday, is it was one subjective term after another. It was associates that may or may not be there. So all one subjective term after another with no concrete proof that anything happened. No way. When you use a term like associates, you don't even put a time frame around it. It's a little bit nebulous at best to suggest that somebody over and over again making a claim the way you do and the narrative continues without any substantiation. When you're talking about Nunes, there's a reason that with someone who's dealing with classified information can't go out into public and reveal certain things.
Who is the president holding accountable for the split in the Republican Party not being able to get this bill done, the struggle that it's taking to get the votes at the last minute? Is he holding Republican leadership, Paul Ryan, accountable for bringing a bill to the table without having consensus from the Freedom Caucus, or is he holding the Freedom Caucus accountable for opposing?
I think right now we're not focused on blaming. We're focused on getting it done and winning.
And now President Trump have been selling this legislation as coverage for everybody, lower premiums, lower deductibles, and better health care.
Thank you.
Hasn't he put Republicans on the spot with this legislation?
Sure.
By selling it that way?
But it is. So yes, thank you for the advertisement. I appreciate it. I think that's what. Of course it can. It will do that, and that's what the point is. But I think that there has been I think there is some concern, as I mentioned earlier, about the timing, and I think we have continued to allay a lot of those concerns. because of the rules that they are. And again, one of the things that is tough to explain to a lot, or not tough to explain, but just the reality is that if we don't do it the way that we're going to do it, we need 60 votes, and we're not going to get 60 votes in the Senate.
Why does the White House believe it was appropriate for Chairman Nunes to come and give this information to the president regarding an investigation about the president's own associates during the campaign?
Well, two things. One is, it wasn't, as has been asked before, to ask me why he did something. He made a decision. He briefed. Hold on. You were getting there. I saw, you've seen it enough of you, Peter. I know where you're going. I know where you were going. But the reality is that he made a decision. He briefed the press first. No one had a problem, by the way, in the press corps of getting briefed before everybody else. He went down, he briefed your colleagues before he briefed anybody else. I don't hear too much crying about that. The reality is, and then he made a statement and said, I'm going to come down to the White House and share this information with the president. As has just been noted, he didn't give us a heads up. He told us, he made an announcement. He said, I'm coming down to the White House, asked for time to share this with the president. And I think part of the reason, to be clear to your question, is specifically to say that there is a big difference between any discussion about what's going on in Russia and why this intelligence was picked up. His comments yesterday were very clear. The intelligence and the information that he picked up had nothing to do with Russia. And I think he felt as though, according to his own words, they had an obligation to make sure the president knew what he had discovered.